Today I want to talk to you about the skill of teaching. Having studied pedagogy, that fancy word that means teaching, one of the things I learned at that time was that the goal of teaching is to change behavior. It isn't necessarily to learn facts or to learn 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's to be able to change behavior, to change the way we do things. A person who has taught a young child how to do a multiplication will find that the child, if he really learns it, ask him to tell you how many squares on a checkerboard board. Instead of counting each one all the way through, they're going to multiply this side times this side and get their answer. They've changed their behavior and how they arrive at the number of boxes on that square. And that same principle goes throughout all of teaching. What we want to do is teach in such a way that people are actually doing things differently. I come to this passage in Philippians chapter 4, verse 9 that says, "Those things which ye have both learned and received and heard and seen in me, do." The formula that is here is the formula I'm speaking of. First of all, the end product is the do, to change behavior, to get a person to learn something so that they live differently than they did before. We call that learning. When they've actually learned to do something, they do things differently. Now, when you read this passage of Scripture, you see that it starts off with learned. Those things which you have both learned and received and heard and seen in me, do. It ends with the doing. It starts with the learning. But in actuality, you read this formula backwards, and it really starts here with the words, with what a student hears, the things that you have heard in me. And so when you're going to be teaching, you need to make sure that your words are clear, that they're concise, that you're communicating in a language that young people understand. You want to be careful you don't use words like pedagogy when you mean teaching. You want to make sure that you're talking to their age level and that they understand what you're saying. And then you add to that what they see. The Scripture says, "The things that you have heard and seen in me, do." So you hear and then you see. And what you're seeing is the example of the teacher. You've all heard the saying that what I do speaks so loud you can't hear what I'm saying. And the fact of the matter is that the example that a person gives in their life and how they live is the thing that validates the words that they're speaking. And so we first use the words, then we have the example, and as a result of that, we're either having a plus or a negative. And the plus or the negative is this. It's a plus if the example backs up the words, and the words teach what the example is doing. It's a negative if the example is different than the words. We call that difference hypocrisy. And it's important for the teacher to know that when they are teaching, that young people are smart enough to be able to look at their life more than just at church, more than just at school, and to see if their example, their life, backs up what they're hearing. And so when you hear the right words and you see the right example, it's a plus. And what happens at the plus is that we have this word receive in here. The things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, do. This receiving is the accepting. And that's really the key to the whole thing. Hey, listen, if there's no receiving, there's no learning. There's no change of behavior. Oh, they might be able to write the questions on a quiz or a test right, but they haven't received it. The receiving, the accepting, this is the student in their mind saying, hey, that's right. That's true. That's right. That's what I want to do. And they accept it. They receive it so that now they learn it. It's a simple formula, and it's sometimes so simple that we forget the power of it, this teaching formula. To give the right words, to back it up with example, makes it possible for a student to receive it, to accept it, and as a result, they learn it. They learn it intellectually, but it comes out in their life and how they do things. I think this is important, especially when we're teaching young people about character, about life, about making major decisions in life, about surrendering to the Lord, about doing God's will in their life. It's very important that the teacher uses clear, concise words, backed up by their example, and wait for the student to say, I received that. And then we have learning, which results in a change of behavior. The teacher's formula for learning. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's perfect. Did you like it?
I think so.